நம்முடைய தமிழ் மொழி உலகிலேயே மிகவும் தொன்மையான மொழி எந்த தேசத்திடம் இருக்கின்றதோ அந்த தேசத்திடம் பெருமிதம் பொங்க வேண்டுமா கூடாதா சொல்லுங்க.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் சிலப்பதிகாரம் என்ற தலைப்பில் ஒவ்வொரு பகுதியாக வழங்கக்கூடிய அந்த தொகுப்பை முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
In Sathan's work, this supreme position is achieved by a woman from a clan of courtesans. He gives a lucid and profound exposition of Buddhist logic in Canto 29. Sherbatsky feels that Hinayana Buddhists knew little about logical science. Maitreya and the learned brothers Asanga and Vasubandhu, the founders of the Yogacara school of Buddhism, were the first great Buddhist theologians who showed interest in logic and epistemology. Sathan proves to be very well acquainted with the writings of Nagarjuna, Maitreya, Asanga, Vasubandhu, Dinnaga and others in his treatise on Buddhist logic, which running to more than 400 lines contains the quintessence of their writings. The close resemblance between Nyaya Pravesa and what Sathan says is striking, but a scrutiny of the two by scholars reveals that the poet is more an interpreter than a mere translator of Nyaya Pravesa, since he elucidates, illustrates and at times makes changes for the better. The Madhyamika school of Mahayana Buddhism spoke of 4 pramanas or sources of knowledge: perception, inference, comparison and testimony. The Yogacara school of the later period admitted only 2 pramanas, that is perception and inference. Vasubandhu's contention was that these 2 pramanas are enough to understand and communicate knowledge. Sathan accepts this view. While presenting the 5-membered syllogism of the Nayayikas, he follows the Nyaya Shastra of Akshapata and its earliest commentary by Vatsyayana, according to which the 5 instruments of knowledge are thesis, reason, example, application and conclusion. Manimegalai deals elaborately with the first 3 limbs of syllogism and concludes that the last 2 may be included in the third, whereas Nyaya Pravesa does not mention the last 2. Sathan lists 9 fallacies of thesis, 14 fallacies of reason and 10 fallacies of example. Nyaya Pravesa mentions the same, while in the other logical treatises written before and after these 2 writers, the numbers vary. In the last canto of Manimegalai, in which there is a stunning display of Sathan's knowledge of Buddhism gathered from a large number of Pali and Sanskrit texts, philosophy may not come as felt thought in the proper emotional context. Perhaps Sathan's intention is to write a manual on Buddhist philosophy in elegant Tamil, and he has eminently succeeded in that attempt. The canto examines the theory of dependent origination and 4 noble truths, the themes of the sermon that the Buddha delivered at the Deer Park in Banaras. Sathan uses Nagarjuna's elucidation of the 12 Nidhanas in Mulamadhyaka Kariga in terms of a series of negatives. There is neither origination nor cessation, neither permanence nor impermanence, neither unity nor diversity, neither coming in nor going out in the principle Pratitaya Sambutpada. The following 12 Nidhanas are mentioned by Satam: ignorance, disposition, consciousness, name and form, 6 spheres of operation, sense contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, disease, old age and death. His presentation of how these operate is very similar to the description in Mahavagga of Vinaya Pitaka. He points out very effectively that if the origination of the 12 Nidhanas lodges one in bondage, the cessation of them gains one liberation. The Buddhist scholars of Satan's time had examined the Nidhanas from different points of view. The circle of Nidhanas is divided into 4 groups on the basis of cause and effect. They are also studied in terms of the 3 connections found among the 4 groups. The third analysis is grounded on the concept of 3 lives, since the chain of the 12 Nidhanas extends over 3 lives, the past, the present and the future. In the fourth analysis, they are grouped under the 3 elements of law, namely delusion, action and misery. Satan explains all the 4 analyses. The Buddhist principles described in Thiripitakam are given an exquisite poetic form in chaste Tamil by Satanar. Satanar's rendering is this: பேதமை சார்வா செய்கையாகும், செய்கை சார்வா உணர்ச்சியாகும், உணர்ச்சி சார்வா அருவுருவாகும், அருவுரு சார்வா வாயிலாகும், வாயில் சார்வா ஊராகுமே, ஊறு சார்ந்து நுகர்ச்சியாகும், நுகர்ச்சி சார்ந்து வேட்கையாகும், வேட்கை சார்ந்து பற்றாகுமே, பற்றில் தோன்றும் கருமத் தொகுதி, கருமத் தொகுதி காரணமாக வருமே ஏனை வழிமுறை தோற்றம், தோற்றம் சார்பின் மூப்பு பிணி சாக்காடு அவலம் அரற்று கவலை கையார் என தவலில் துன்பம் தலைவரும் என்ப ஊழின் மண்டிலமா சூழுமின் நுகர்ச்சி. And then this is continued in the next passage. Again Satan's expression of the principle is lucid and melodious. பேதமை மீள செய்கை மீளும், செய்கை மீள உணர்ச்சி மீளும், உணர்ச்சி மீள அருவுரு மீளும், அருவுரு மீள வாயில் மீளும், வாயில் மீள ஊறு மீளும், ஊறு மீள நுகர்ச்சி மீளும், நுகர்ச்சி மீள வேட்கை மீளும், வேட்கை மீள பற்று மீளும், பற்று மீள கருமத் தொகுதி மீளும், கருமத் தொகுதி மீள தோற்றம் மீளும், தோற்றம் மீள பிறப்பு மீளும், பிறப்பு பிணி மூப்பு சாக்காடு அவலம் அரற்று கவலை கையாறு என்று இக்கடையில் துன்பம் எல்லாம் மீளும் இவ்வகையான் மீட்சி. Satanar ends the poem asserting that Buddhism, far superior to all other religions, offers the sole refuge to mankind, and that Manimegalai rightly chose that path. இந்நால் வகையான் மனத்து இருள் நீங்கி முன்பின் மலையா மங்கள மொழியில் ஞான தீபம் நன்கணம் காட்ட தவத்திரம் பூண்டு தருமம் கேட்டு பவத்திரம் அருக என பாவை நோற்றனள். What Canto 30 gives is a succinct summary of Buddhist philosophy meant for the common reader. Always keeping in mind the note of warning sounded by the Buddha against metaphysical subtleties, Satan never misses the wood for the trees. But the question that has been raised again and again concerns the identity of the Buddhist school to which the author belongs. Which of the 18 sects falling under the two main divisions of Hinayana and Mahayana he has in mind? Those who claim that Satan is an ardent supporter of Sautrantika Yogachara, a Mahayana sect promoted by the disciples of Vasubandhu, argue that Satan's work resounds with echoes from leading Mahayana texts like Buddha Charita, Lalita Vistara and Lankavatara Sutra. He says that numerous Buddhas who were avatars of God lived in the past. Like Ashwagosha, he also describes the good omens at the time of Buddha's birth. Inspired by Matrucheta's hymn of 400 verses and hymn of 150 verses, he has included a few hymns of his own in which the various names and appellations of the Buddha are recounted. As in the Mahayana text, Buddha is referred to as the sun in many places. The Arhats of Hinayana are unsocial recluses interested in setting their own lands in order, whereas Bodhisattvas of Mahayana are saviors of mankind. The portraits of Aravana Adigal and Aputhiran indicate that Satana's sympathies are with the cult of Bodhisattva. In Manimegalai, there are indirect references to the system of Buddha's Trikaya, a salient feature of Mahayana Buddhism. Those who believe that Satan champions the cause of Hinayana point out that his repeated tributes to the path of the Petakas of the Great One must be a reference to Hinayana. In the temple at Puhar, the Buddha was represented only by his feet. Also, there are no allusions to the Madhyamika school or to Nagarjuna anywhere in the text of Manimegalai. What the historians have to say about Buddhism in the Tamil country may help us resolve the controversy. Sir Charles Eliot categorically states that our available documents indicate that the Buddhism of South India was almost entirely Hinayanist, analogous to that of Ceylon. Hian Sang, who visited India in the 7th century, writes that in Dravida there were 10,000 monks of the Savira school. Though a zealous Mahayanist, he says, this Chinese traveller says that half of the monks of India were definitely Hinayanist, while less than a fifth had equally definite Mahayanist convictions. The Staviras, Saraswati, Sarvastivadins and Samitiyas are the three Hinayanist schools frequently mentioned. The Staviras, the well-known Ceylonese sect, were found chiefly in the south and in East Bengal. These historical details make it clear that the Buddhism of Manimegalai has to be Hinayana, the dominant school in the south even as late as the 7th century. Then how are we to account for the presence of some Mahayanist principles in it? Sir Charles Eliot says that the Sautrantikas, though accounted Hinayanist, mark a step in the direction of Mahayana, since they not only ascribed superhuman powers to the Buddha, but believed in the doctrine of the three bodies. Like most of the Hinayanists of his time, Satan was not averse to using some of the Mahayanist principles to demonstrate the superiority of Buddhism over other religions. The propagation of Buddhism is the chief motive of Manimegalai. The three cantos which discuss religious doctrines may be cut out without causing any damage to the artistic integrity of the work. It is a religious literature only in the third sense in which T.S. Eliot uses the term, that is, the work of a man who sincerely wants to forward the cause of a religion, and it must have succeeded as a propaganda literature, since the example of Manimegalai was followed by a few great Tamil writers of the time. Thank you.